What is going on, guys? Rewinds here, and in this video I'm going to be bringing you guys the full spoilers for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex manga chapter number 16. So I just finished making this document a little bit ago, pretty much put together a lot of like the main bullet points of what's going on in this chapter, a lot of important dialogue pieces. And while I was doing that, I can say that I was pleasantly surprised with some of the stuff that was discussed in this chapter, because based off of the initial spoilers that I covered, although we had a lot that was being shown, there wasn't everything translated, so there was a lot of assumptions, of course, being made because of the lack of translations. But just because of me having the full translations now and everything, I feel like I'm more of a fan of the chapter now. Before I was a little bit more neutral. I was leaning towards the end of, hey, it'd be decent, but now I'm leaning towards a little bit more positive than I was before, at least. So there are still parts of the chapter that I feel like could be a bit better, but overall I do feel like the chapter did hit a lot of points that I think are important for setup coming forward. So let's talk about it. And I do want to make this clear: if you're new to my channel and you're more of a fan of the panels and stuff being shown and whatnot, my previous spoiler video would probably be better for you. But if you're a fan of just wanting to know all this bullet point information, this is the video for you. But let's talk about it. We have a Ida color page for chapter 16's cover, and the chapter is titled Singularity of Fate. And trust me, guys, this will make sense as we go through this. So the chapter kicks off with Kashi and Koji and Boruto in a flashback. So this is when Boruto has, that Sasuke-like hair. And Kashi and Koji is pretty much explaining that space-time ninjutsu and the ability to fly are basic abilities that the Otsutsuki possess. Koji says that Boruto has outbursts of these powers before, which, we've seen in Naruto, Next Generations, but won't succeed in controlling them until 6 years from now. So despite Boruto being, generally speaking, a prodigy, these are abilities that he won't have control of 6 years from the time of that conversation. So I believe we're 2 years ahead now. So even from the present, 4 more years till Boruto can do space-time ninjutsu and or have the ability to fly. So I'm pretty sure that's what he was referring to, but there is another thing he could be referring to, and that is that by assigning chakra to ninja tools and sensing them, Boruto came up with the Flying Thunder God in the future. This is similar to Minato's technique, but Koji says that it's a completely different technique and not exactly the same, and that Boruto doesn't know the real Flying Thunder God, but he came up with this variant while searching for control over space-time ninjutsu. So there's 2 ways this could be interpreted. One could just be that he came up with this variation of Flying Thunder God in 6 years in the future in, the normal timeline. Or it could be that he came up with this but still managed to learn how to fly and do space-time ninjutsu in the 6-year span as well. So it could be one of the two, but regardless, it's pretty cool. Boruto came up with this variant himself. That's pretty impressive stuff. Just shows you what kind of potential overall Boruto has and what kind of potential he did live up to in this other timeline. So, future or timeline, whatever you want to call it. But Koji can see it, as we know. And I'm sure Koji is going to keep dropping more and more info like this as we keep going. So anyway, Koji says that the most suitable medium for this jutsu is a ninja tool. And it could be any kind, even a sword. So if this thing that's being used by Boruto is in visible range, teleportation will become easier and more accurate. Koji gives an example of a shuriken being far north and one being far south. He won't be able to tell which one Boruto will teleport to, since both are out of visible range. That means Boruto wouldn't be able to utilize the convenient nature of this technique. So pretty much meaning that if there's a shuriken Boruto threw north and one he threw south, and they're both out of his visible range, if he just thinks in his head and tries to transport himself to one of the shuriken, he doesn't know exactly which one he's going to end up at. So they do come up with a solution for this, because otherwise this would be, a hindrance to his technique. The solution to this is coming up with items of various different shapes. This will ultimately allow teleportation to even further intended coordinates. So for example, Boruto and his sword from the interrogation chapter we had in chapter 14, I believe, could be a great example of that. So Boruto is probably able to teleport to that because his chakra was infused in it, and he could visualize the shape of the sword. So that's what I think ended up happening in chapter 14 with that. So this is a pretty good explanation. I actually like that they're taking the time to explain this, so I do feel like the chapter is off to a good start, and I think it's pretty cool that they're explaining how Boruto learned this, because a lot of people were wondering, like, at the start of when Boruto 2 Blue Vortex started, they're like, damn, he's really, really strong, which is pretty badass, but is this good writing? How did Boruto get this? Then as more and more, pieces started to come together, everything started clicking and making more sense, and overall, I still think it's adding up pretty well, and Ikimoto and Kishimoto are doing a pretty solid job explaining stuff. So, it's also established that further teleportation will require greater concentration. Koji says that Boruto just got knowledge from him in a few minutes that would have normally taken him many years to come up with on his own. So this is probably 6 years worth of knowledge in a sense that Boruto just got dropped on him in a couple minutes. So just like that, Boruto's future has been changed. And that's something that I feel like we need to take in, because that connects to the title. And I'm going to get to that in a second too, because that's a point coming up. Because Boruto then, as he's, I'm pretty sure they're off the training ground at this point, and he's pretty much telling Koji, if a good and a bad future can be seen, wouldn't it be better to inform everyone to move things in a positive direction? Koji responds to this by saying, the more people know, the more they understand. And as a result, the future can branch out complexly. So that can cause a drastic change, and that could be bad in some regards too, is pretty much what Koji's saying. And Koji's pretty much saying that the more one knows about the future, the more one deviates from the rail called destiny. A heretical existence that destabilizes the future, it becomes a singularity. And that is where we have the connection to the title, because he says that it's better that everyone else doesn't know about the future, and that it's their job as the singularity of destiny to support the journey for a good future from behind the scenes. So this singularity role is being taken on by both Koji and Boruto's part of it now, simply because this was all explained to him and how it works and everything. And plus, Boruto's future itself has been sped up, especially through, a training perspective, thanks to Koji telling him this stuff. So the singularity in this case is those two, and that's what Koji's saying. And he says, sooner or later, he says this word for word, sooner or later you must be seeing our info too, Ida. And that makes Ida a singularity as well. So those three are all singularities in this situation, because they know how this works and they know what can happen. And that's pretty much the role that's being embraced, at least by those two. We'll continue seeing what Ida does, but we then cut over to pretty much Act 2 of the chapter, I guess you can say. And it's Sarada and Sumire asking what Ida found out. So this does confirm that she was watching that, more so in the present of events. And she pretty much responds with, the reason that Boruto doesn't want to talk much so that no unnecessary harm will come to them. So pretty much Ida is saying that she knows the real reasoning now, but she's not really going to jump into that to Sarada and Sumire as well. Sarada then asks for Boruto's location, but Sumire pitches in and says he may not want it to be known. Sumire then pretty much starts up this rant, and this might be a part of the chapter where I feel like some people are going to be mixed because some people don't like this whole, loving stuff going on, being shown like heavily in the series, but I feel like if there is a timing for them to do it, and that if they're going to do it to set up some story events, I do feel like in between arcs is a better idea. So I feel like them doing this right now in between the arc that just ended and now is overall a good idea. So if they were going to do it, may as well be now. I'm personally not, the biggest fan of it, but I don't hate it either because it's probably going to set up some stuff coming forward. So, rant beginning. Sumire says that it's because they don't know that they can do whatever they want in the village. She says that they shouldn't be chasing Boruto. So pretty much saying that she has freedom and Sarada has freedom in the village because they don't know certain things about Boruto. Maybe there's certain things they just straight up shouldn't know is pretty much what Sumire is trying to get across. Sarada says that Boruto could have died if things had gone poorly and says that going against the Shinju alone is too reckless. Sumire responds by saying they themselves could have died too, which, it's valid. They could have, that's true. She tells Sarada to think a little bit about Boruto's feelings. She says there are some things you want to talk about but can't, and that's pretty much referring to how Boruto must be feeling, and that's kind of what Sumire is trying to take into account. And she then asks if Sarada thought about it, Boruto's feelings, but not just Boruto feelings, but her feelings too. And then Sumire says, I like Boruto, yet you were the first one to jump in, and that she pretty much understands how Sarada feels, but what about me? So she's pretty much questioning Sarada's actions here to go, jumping towards Boruto to hug him, while knowing that Sumire herself also likes Boruto, and that she should understand, how she feels. But she also says that she understands how Sarada feels, but yet she's still thinking, what about me though? Back then, right in front of me, did you care about my feelings even a little bit, is what she says. So in this situation, even Ida is feeling pretty tense. She says she can't move an inch because the atmosphere has gotten so bad. So this is going to be one of those tense atmosphere kind of scenes. Sumire says sorry and that it shouldn't be like this kind of situation. Sarada's pretty much speechless as this is going on. And then Sumire starts running out. Sarada yells, "Wait, class rep." And Sumire responds as she walks out, "How long are you going to keep calling me class rep?" So pretty much Sumire just went on a rant towards Sarada about Boruto, about her feelings, I guess, are hurt too because of what Sarada did, and that she should account for Boruto's feelings a bit more as well. So that's pretty much what I got from that. And I guess the little class rep thing at the end was just thrown in like that. Maybe when they reconcile at some point, maybe Sarada won't call her class rep anymore. Maybe she'll just start calling her Sumire. So I don't know. But that's pretty much most of that segment of the chapter. I do feel like we have this whole little love triangle thing going on, and some people, of course, are, a lot more bigger into the shipping scene when it comes to series, and some people hate it. Again, I'm going to just stand neutral on this. I do feel like they've made it obvious for a while that Sumire also likes Boruto, and we know Sarada does as well. So I feel like it wouldn't just be something, where one of them just kind of takes over and the other just sits there and says nothing. So I guess character-wise, this moment makes sense, but I'm glad they didn't drag it out anymore beyond this point, personally. So we'll see what happens with those two, later going down the line. I'm sure it'll be a plot point that's brought back up eventually. So after that, we get to another segment of the chapter where Shikamaru contacts Ida through Ino, or through the sensory unit, and he says that he wants to ask something and that there's something that he wants to talk about. Then we get a page where the two old elders are talking to the feudal lord pretty much over a Zoom call, who happens to be mad at them that Boruto hasn't been dealt with yet. So he pretty much just says, the usual threats, like, yeah, there'll be consequences if you guys don't take care of it, and the elders are kind of just apologizing and making excuses. Then we cut over to Shikamaru meeting with Ida, but says that he'd rather not be doing this since it slows his mind down. But Ida says he has to because Shikamaru at the same time also didn't want to be overheard by the sensory, so it's pretty much inevitable that they had to meet in person for this convo. So, and that part had me thinking, just a little thing, but I mean, I don't know how widely accessible stuff is now in the ninja world, but I guess technically Shikamaru and Ida could have maybe gone on a Zoom call too, right? But I guess technically maybe that can be intercepted by sensory, so safest way is to go and meet in person. So Shikamaru goes and asks her what the status is in the sand. He then learns that there is a new Shinju born named Ryu, and that his target happens to be the Kazekage Gaara. And since it's his own technique that had sealed Gaara when he was Shinki, he can undo the seal protecting Gaara as well. So, big developments being told to Shikamaru. Shikamaru then says that he'll arrange a mission to the sand immediately. Ida also tells Shikamaru that she saw some footage a couple hours ago, and not in real time, but one of the Shinju was able to peer at her when she used the Senrigan. And that was one of those moments, I think it was chapter 4 or 5, where the bug-like Shinju was able to do that. But, as a result, going forward, Ida plans on observing the Shinju in past logs instead. So that way she won't be able to get tracked when she's watching. Ida also asks Shikamaru if he helped Boruto escape with Mitsuki, and she tells him pretty much don't play dumb and not to worry because that she doesn't plan on telling anybody, as it'll only make things more inconvenient for herself, but she says more importantly it'll make things more inconvenient for Boruto. So this does show a different side of her. She definitely feels bad for turning his life, how it is now, so she seems like she doesn't want to make it any worse, so I guess that's respectable at least. But I mean, we pretty much did a trade. Ida got what she wanted in a sense with the whole Kawaki thing, and Boruto pretty much suffered as a result. So that's what happened, and it seems like she doesn't want to make it any worse for him. So Ida also fills in Shikamaru about Boruto and Kawaki's temporary alliance and tells her not to really interfere with that. Tells him not to really interfere with that. And Shikamaru asks Ida if she has seen Boruto's mysterious ally. He remembers being contacted by Boruto through a toad and guesses that the ally may be Kashin Koji, which we know is correct. A toad then appears on the back of Ida's hair and calls Shikamaru very perceptive. He says that he'll convey some key points but wants no questions. He tells Shikamaru to send 3 specific individuals to the Land of Wind. These are Konohamaru Sarutobi, Sarada Uchiha, and Mitsuki. Also, by the way, just a little side note, guys. Does Mitsuki, I feel like it hasn't been mentioned before, but does Mitsuki not have, like, an official last name even somewhere? I feel like I haven't heard one, but maybe there's, like, some sort of book or something where there's one. I just thought it was funny. They were saying, like, the full names, and then at the end he goes, and Mitsuki. So, just got me thinking a little bit. But Koji's pretty much saying that Ryu or Matsuri should appear there, and perhaps both will. Work with 2 sand ninjas to defeat them. Which, if we were guessing, and just based off the sneak peek spoilers, we know it's Yodo and Araya. So, those 2 should be there. Shikamaru tries asking why to send them, but Koji says the point again of no questions. He says that he must find a plausible reason to send those 3, and also to not let Himawari Uzumaki leave Konoha. She is a target of Jura, so she may attract attention, and if that happens, she will die. So, big warning right there, so we know Himawari needs to stay in the village at the moment. Koji says that Jura values the cultural values of Konoha. So, battle in Konoha is going to be against his will. This is actually kind of interesting, just, because we literally had a battle in Konoha technically, or at least a part of it. But I guess going forward, maybe Jura will respect it more. So, unless something crazy happens, being in Konoha should be safe for now for Himawari is pretty much the point. For example, if Jura visits the bookstore in the future, he must be interacted with as an ordinary customer. Shikamaru asks if he's serious. Koji says that he's not joking and to not provoke Jura, or that their chances of victory would be unlikely or even impossible. So, I feel like this bookstore example is actually going to be something that happens down the line. That might be Koji just dropping in a little hint, to be honest. So, I feel like we're going to see that at some point, and I feel like that could be like a funny little interaction, as long as it doesn't go, seriously bad. But I do feel like Koji's giving good advice, but it just shows you how much of a threat Jura probably is if they're saying that Shikamaru has to just treat him like an ordinary customer, or the village has to just treat him ordinary, or otherwise if he gets provoked, their chances of victory will be impossible or slim. So it just shows you what kind of threat he is. I mean, he does of course seem like he's going to be the main boss, he's the leader of the Shinju, but it's interesting stuff. So he says don't let Jura get involved and kill all his allies with the minimum necessary force. If Jura appears in a fight, then quickly run away. Koji says that that's all and begins to leave. Shikamaru tells him to wait, and Koji says he's deeply thankful for Shikamaru for letting Boruto escape. Pretty much, he says he won't force anything on him, but to move into the future, it was your decision, wasn't it? So pretty much saying that he made a decision with his heart rather than his mind. Like, he went against his memories and went with something he felt. And that honestly could be a future defining moment. It really could. So that'll be something that's interesting to see if Koji ever explains if that specific event ended up altering anything. So Shikamaru then starts to smoke and Ida's just looking on. Follow your heart are the words that cross Ida's mind. We then see a page of Sumire, who is seen looking sad and thinking why she did something like that. We then transition over to Konohamaru, Sarada, and Mitsuki in the Sand Village. So we pretty much had to have done, a couple days at least of a transition, maybe longer. But right then, on a rock above them, Yodo and Araya show up as well. They say, welcome to the land of wind and thank you for the cooperation. Konohamaru responds to this by saying he's counting on them and that they should head there right away. So they go to these coordinates that were given to them by Shikamaru. And Konohamaru and Mitsuki are a little bit skeptical because they don't know where Shikamaru got, these coordinates. But it seems like it's trustworthy. But Konohamaru does eventually end up spotting two Shinju through the binoculars. Meanwhile, as that was going on, Yodo reunites with Sarada and says that her vibe has changed a lot. And she asks if it's because of a man's taste. And Sarada says, no, it's not. So, no, and then like a little hesitation saying it's not. So we do know from a Ikimoto interview that the real answer is yes, because Ikimoto did reveal that she does dress, the way she does because she misses Boruto, and because of, I'm pretty sure it was something along the lines of Sarada shops at like a similar store to where he would go, and it's kind of more like a keep Boruto's memory alive kind of thing. So definitely her style was impacted by Boruto, but of course she's not going to admit that, or at least not yet. And pretty much to wrap up the chapter, Konohamaru spots Ryu and Matsuri by a dead toad, and he says, damn, there's two of them, and they say that they think that this toad is a clue to Boruto. So they haven't spotted Team 7 and Yodo and Araya yet, and I feel like that's going to be something, of course, that we might get in the next chapter, some action actually going on between these people. 5-on-2, but Shinju we know are crazy overpowered, so realistically I don't know how they're going to take them out, but just based off what Koji said too, it does seem like something big is fated to happen in this specific fight, and if Koji thinks this is the right way to go about it, there's probably going to be some big things that happen in a good manner, I guess. to help them, head more towards that route of defeating the Shinju. And it could be, something along the lines, too, of course, of maybe they don't even take both of them out. Maybe they take one of them out somehow. And it could be due to a thing like Hidari, in a sense, where just a general power that the Shinju have, maybe they can't use it to their full potential or something of the sort. Or maybe next chapter, it could be a whole thing where Boruto just pops up. We don't know for sure, but we'll find out when the time comes. All in all, though, definitely let me know what you guys thought about the full spoilers in the comments below. But that's pretty much going to wrap up this one. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you guys are new. And as always, I hope you guys have a good day or night whenever you guys are watching this video. I'm Rewinds, and I'm out.